Welcome back.
Wow, I just like had a burp that I had to work through.
You know, it kind of sounded like oi.
Yeah, oi.
Dun 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 oi.
I didn't know where you were going for a second.
You know.
Yeah, I get it now. But at first I was like, they don't sing. There's no musical number in Nemo.
Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking of the
the seagulls.
Mm-hmm. That's where my mind went. And I was like confused.
You look really funny with those headphones on your head.
I know, it's pretty awesome.
Kind of looks like you're missing horns.
Missing horns?
Yeah, like they were cut off.
Oh, yeah. Like someone took them as a trophy.
Maybe.
What do they do that to?
What?
I don't know. I was trying to think. Oh, I guess rhinos? I don't know.
That's the
I was thinking of animals with horns that they cut off.
Elephants?
That people cut off, yeah.
Rhinos?
Well, those are tusks.
Well, isn't it a tusk? Horn?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, they call them different names. We're splitting hairs here. It's all good.
Okay.
Anyways,
Oops,
wow.
Sorry.
We're back on the air.
Yeah.
This 2-week schedule is kind of interesting because I almost forget that we have to record, and then you're like, hey, it's that week.
You know, I probably remember better now than I did before.
That's good.
Which is kind of funny. I also prefer it because I still don't have a whole lot to say.
Just got to find something.
I don't know. I guess I feel like I've just been empty-headed lately.
Like honey? It's head in the clouds?
But not even in the clouds, just nothing. She's at least, I don't know.
You're in space. You're beyond the clouds.
Yeah, that's it. She's in the clouds. I'm in the blackness of space.
Just find a comet and ride that baby through the galaxy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be. It would be so cool. You know where I'd want to go down? In a submarine that doesn't implode.
You want to go on a submarine?
Yeah.
Wow. I never would have guessed that.
I'm really scared of the water and I would love to see what's underneath it.
Yeah, me too. But submarines scare me.
Well, yeah. I mean, a safe one, not one that would implode.
You know what okay, maybe this is why I have things to say because I spend way too much time on random YouTube videos. But I learned about this submarine in I believe it was the 30s, late 30s. This guy wanted to take a submarine and go to the North Pole. And he was going to go in this old modified World War I submarine and dive under the ice in the North Pole and then get to like the pole. And they had this drill that was going to drill up through the ice. And then they could climb a little ladder and like be the first people on the North Pole by taking this submarine.
Okay.
But it did not work well.
What happened?
The sub was like breaking. The ice drill didn't work. And it was really old and crummy and things kept failing. And then it was really small, cramped conditions. And the crew started to get angry. And like there was one instance they were trying to dive onto the ice. And on the back of the submarine, they have, I forget what they call them, but they're essentially little like rudder things that can move the sub up or down. And they were trying to dive and the rudder things weren't diving. Like they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So we sent a diver down there to like fix it or check it out. And he came up and he's like, I don't know, like they're gone. But he thinks that the diver probably just ripped him off and like sabotaged the sub because everyone wanted to fucking go home because they were so sick of like this dumb mission. Yeah. And he had been trying to race. There was what's the guy's name? William Hearst was a big like newspaper and media what would you call it? Like businessman, you know, like had a big empire. Yeah. Okay. Big empire of news and media. And so he had offered this guy, I think it was $150,000 prize if he got to the North Pole by X date. And they were going to have this big Zeppelin like fly over and take pictures from up above and, you know, would get this exclusive story. But he had like already missed that deadline. So he wasn't going to get the 150,000. So I think that's also why everyone was like, fuck this. Like,
yeah, they don't get anything
no
either.
Prize money. We're like swimming around in our own diarrhea and filth because there was like one toilet in between the big diesel engines. And like, it sounded horrific. I was like, that sounds dumb.
Nobody died though?
I don't think so.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, because it was like just not working out, and eventually he caved in and was like, "Fine, like we'll go home." I thought it was gonna be like, and then it disappeared, and no one ever heard from them again. I was like, "Ooh,"
yeah,
because you know how they clickbait you in with titles like
totally.
that, like "What happened to the Nautilus?" And you're like,
"Are you online clickbaiting?
What
bait clicking?"
It's YouTube. Everything's like clickbaity, right? It's all ragey. They're like, "Blah blah blah, this is horrific," and then you're like, "No, it's not. That's actually kind of funny."
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but it was interesting. I never knew someone tried to submarine to the North Pole.
Yeah.
But then years later, once they made nuclear submarines, like the U.S. had a nuclear submarine and they were like, whoo, went right through there.
Yeah, I just had to wait a few years. Yeah, no, I mean, I've always been scared of deep water. I don't know what happened actually. When I was younger, I didn't have any issues with that. And then as I got a little bit older, I didn't like touching where I couldn't touch.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in lake country.
I was going to say, you like lived on a lake.
But I don't know what else is living in there. So I would be exactly, maybe that's it.
But it doesn't eat people. Just swims around.
Who knows? I would be so scared to like fall off a tube, the back of a boat.
Yeah, I get that.
And be like, yeah, I just didn't know. Anyways, plus you can't see like anything. And sharks are scary.
Yeah. I was always terrified of sharks.
Yeah. I was terrified of sharks in pools.
Yeah. Pools don't scare me, but like lakes and stuff, and well, especially the ocean.
Well, of course.
I swear a shark has hit my leg once in the Atlantic.
Scary. Yeah,
because we were in Delaware, out on the beaches there one summer. And I felt something kind of sandpapery, like hit my leg. It didn't hit hard or anything. I don't think it was trying. Like it probably just didn't know I was there. It was kind of fucked up, mucky water, anyways, because it was so silty and sandy. But that kind of freaked me out.
How'd you know that was why did you think it was a shark?
Because their skin is sandpapery. Like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if they brush up against you hard enough, they'll actually like
cut you.
Yeah, cut your skin open and stuff. Yeah, they're really, really rough. Like just touching sharks can, fuck your skin up. That's why people usually wear those metal suits, or those like mesh metal suits when they're diving and interacting with sharks, just so it protects their skin from getting scraped up.
And the blood flowing, and then
things I learned in Shark Week.
Yeah. To be honest, like I've never been. When I see tiger sharks or those little ones, those don't scare me. It's the big guys. Even though I know that those little ones could hurt you too.
Tiger sharks are vicious.
Yeah, but they don't look like it.
Yeah. Lemon sharks. They don't do anything.
What is a lemon shark?
Yeah, it's a big shark. But they're pretty much harmless.
Never seen that.
They don't really do anything.
It's the big guys. Yeah, like
hammerheads scare me.
Yeah, hammerheads and big whites.
I saw them in Hawaii. There was a hotel we were like wandering around in, and they had like I don't know what you call, like saltwater pools or something all around the outside there, and they had some hammerheads in there, and those things are fucking fast. Like your eyes can barely keep up with them. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy how I've never seen a creature move so quickly.
Scary.
Yeah. So that freaks me out, because you imagine that thing like ramming into you, because they got that big bony hammery head, and so they just like, bah, and it's like your back's broken and now you drown.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So sharks are one of my biggest fears for no good reason. I think we've talked about this before too, but like my mind would play tricks on me in pools. That's what I mean. Like anywhere where I can't touch, I'm like, there's something or if I put my head underwater, my eyes are like, there's a shark right in front of you. Oh my God, get out of there. It's so stupid. I also can't go underwater anymore without plugging my nose.
Interesting.
Yeah, I used to be fine. Like I could do like handstands. We had a little, over above ground pool and all good. And then I don't know, at some point in my teens, I was like, I can't go underneath water anymore without holding my nose.
Wild.
Even when we just do those cold plunges in the sink with our faces.
Yeah, those ones get to me a little bit, mostly because it's cold.
No, it feels really good, but I feel like I start panicking a little bit at first
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, that's going up my nose and I can't hold my nose in a bowl of cold water. I'm able to
Yeah,
do
that's
it,
true.
but I struggle with it and then just don't understand what happened.
I don't know either.
I never had some kind of traumatic event in the water unless I blacked it out, Mom. I don't know.
Yeah, I like water though. At least pools and a lot of lakes too. But I remember we had some friends who had a cabin on the lake, and we would go out there sometimes, or we'd rent it from them, and if they weren't using it. And but then I learned about bull sharks, which can go in freshwater, and then I was like, "Fuck the lake," especially because we live by the ocean. And I honestly don't think there's any way a shark could really get up there. It was kind of like in a more mountainous inland region, so I highly doubt that water would be deep enough for a shark to really get in there. But
yeah,
I always had that thought, and I'd be out on a they had one of those boards on the wind for like windsurfing, but they never had the like kite thing on it, and we would just go out and use it like as a paddleboard essentially. Yeah, and but then I'd always think, oh my god, I look like a seal or something, and a bull shark's gonna come get me.
All right, so you kind of had the same irrational fear.
Yeah, but I know mine came from watching Jaws in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, but I love shark movies so much when they're made decently.
We were in Hawaii and there's like shark warnings on the beach, so it's like it was a whole different environment. Because at least up in Bellingham, like in the Northwest and around Vancouver, there's not really any dangerous sharks of any kind. They're those like what do they call them? I think dogfish, which are technically a type of shark, but they don't. They're fairly small, and the only danger is they have this little spike on one of their top of their fins. Yeah, but they normally just scurry around the bottom in deeper water. So sometimes if we were out fishing for what are those ugly things? Codfish, which also hang around the bottom, but you'd often catch a lot of dogfish while you're up there, and so you'd have to always be careful, like getting them off and throwing them in because they would try and like whip their little back fin around and stick you with their spike.
Oh,
I don't think it was poisonous or anything, but it just hurts.
Yeah. So yeah, I love floating. I don't really like swimming anymore. I like to go in, get cool, but I like to float.
Like down the river in a tube?
Yeah, that's fun. But I mean, just floating around on the lake too, not too far.
Mm-hmm.
What else was I going to say? Boating, as long as I don't have to go like in the deep water for too long. I was going to say something else. I forget.
No, that's all good. I miss being near the water though.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I think it's my one big downside to being in Alberta. Like,
for sure.
And there's no ocean nearby.
Yeah. Well, even a lake, like a good size. I don't know. I was coming from living between lakes. Mm-hmm. Lake country, obviously. And then going down to the ocean, even the ocean, I didn't spend very much time at until we started hanging out. But there's still something about a lake that I love. And around here, like you have to go looking for the trees in the lakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's mostly the smell. I've always loved the smell of the ocean, the salt water and
fishy.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fresh seafood. Like,
oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big loss here.
Yeah. And then it just, I never realized how like steady it keeps the weather and climate. Oh? Yeah, because like the water stays at a relatively constant temperature all the time. Okay. So that helps. Like out here, we're just surrounded by land, and land doesn't really hold any heat or anything, versus water holds a lot of heat. So when it gets colder at night, there's still heat from the water. And then you get the warm, you get like what do they call it? I guess the sea breeze is what comes in from the warmth of the ocean. I think that's in the evening times as it cools down. I can't remember. There is some flow, like it helps regulate the flow of the cold and the hot air. Yeah. And keeps the climate relatively calm. Like, we don't really have a lot of dramatic weather shifts around Vancouver, compared to here where it's, 30 below to 15 above, like I don't want extreme swings. And I've never lived in a climate like this. I've always been on coasts near oceans. So it's been
Yeah.
Calm.
I am struggling really badly with the weather right now because it fucking it's like it's switchbacks. So it's whiplash. It's like all the things that are like hit you hard and pull back and then it hit you again and you know,
Yeah.
I can't stand it. Every time I'm like, okay, I saw a ladybug the other day. I saw a ladybug and I was like, oh, it must be spring. This is the sign. And then it snowed
Yeah.
again. I guess I wish it would just like, if it's going to snow, can you just fucking snow then until you just stop for the summer? Don't be like, it snowed, covered the land with snow, and then the next morning there's no snow and it's hot and you can wear shorts. And then 2 days later, it's snow, wind, hail, thunderstorm. I just can't stand it. It's not the same in a whole fucking week.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe I wouldn't care so much if I wasn't out in it as much as I am with my job now.
Maybe. Yeah.
If I was just sitting in an office like I used to, it probably wouldn't bother me as much.
Yeah. But I feel like the constant rain bothers me a lot more than these shifts.
I don't know. I don't remember the rain. It doesn't fucking rain here.
I really despise that. Like, I enjoy when it rains here because it's short and it's brief and it's refreshing because you don't get it a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the coldness is the only hard part for me sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of 50-50 with the cold.
Well,
sometimes I really enjoy it and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I can just go out bundled up and be fine.
But when it goes from hot to cold.
Yeah, it depends on what I want to do. Like, I think right now it can bug me because it was such a cold winter that I just really stayed inside with. And so I get super excited by the hot, warm days and I can go out on a bike. And so then when the cold does come in, I'm more just bummed that, I can't go like ride my bike in a t-shirt and just like enjoy that, warm breeze flowing around as you pedal and exercise. And
it would have been hilarious if you went out on a bike today.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been able to ride a bike today.
Probably not.
It was so windy. It was so hard to drive even. Like probably the windiest day in a while.
Yeah. I do feel like I should get some goggles or something to ride in though.
That's
the only thing that bugs me. Like I think I could ride in the wind. The wind itself wouldn't bug me much, but just sand and shit gets blown up in your face and you can't see. And that's what feels like a real struggle.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I should just like get some goggles to keep in my bag. And like, if the wind kicks up and it gets really shitty, just put on goggles. Or maybe I'll just bring my ski goggles.
Man, put your goggles
what am I talking
on
about?
with your
Just wear my ski
helmet.
goggles.
put the cat in the back.
Yeah.
And you're like an astronaut or alien going off.
Yeah, people be like, who the hell is that guy? What's he doing?
You would look hilarious.
I could become a figure in the community. They'd be like, it's Goggles Cat Guy.
Tuxedo Park. Gazette.
I had seen a thing going around online where people were like, you know how there's always just like that guy in every city? They're like, oh yeah, that's like Horseback Don. He just like rides a horse through town or something. Like, and no one, like, that's where the description ends.
Yes, my hands up because in Maple Ridge, there was this lady, super tanned lady that would walk around topless.
Right. You told me about that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, me too, until you said that. I saw her once.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But apparently she was well known. And then I was like, fuck, I wish I could be that confident to walk around topless because apparently it's legal.
Was she like middle or older, later?
You know what? It's really hard to tell because it looked like she had been in the sun a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably
like
like
Florida
40s.
Looks like a Florida lady.
Maybe 50s, maybe 60s even.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I feel like she was maybe blonde, short blonde. She had big boobs. But she was tanned as fuck.
Yeah.
So.
It's legal?
Apparently.
That's hilarious.
Because I think I asked somebody about that when I saw her for the first time.
Yeah.
The one and only time, actually.
And by hilarious, I just mean, it seems like that's something that is just irrationally illegal in most places.
Which is retarded because you guys can go topless.
Yeah.
I used to go topless around the river when we'd go around in areas where people weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Until that one time where somebody walked up and was like, "Hi." And I'm like, "Hello."
Yeah. I wonder if that creates it though. Because like I remember being in France for the first time at the beaches there, and a lot of the women, not all of them, but there's a lot of women who just go topless at the beach. But like it also seems like no one cares. Like,
well, and I don't think
I
anybody
feel like-
really should care.
yeah, and I feel like the only ones who might be kind of creepy or starey are like North Americans who aren't used to it.
Yeah.
You know, like I would feel like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of staring a little.
It's actually weirder
like,
if
oh,
you
that doesn't-
don't go topless. That's what it sounds like.
I don't think anyone cared. They're like, keep a top on or don't. Like, we don't do you. It's the beach, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I would love to spend more time around places like that because I just I don't know. I feel like it took me a long time to be comfortable in my own skin, and I don't think it's fair that I have to be told or felt like I'm doing something wrong if I wanted to go topless.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I'm like this close to being looking like a boy anyway. Just kidding. There's a little bit of stuff there.
Yeah. But
So-
again, no one really cares. Like,
I'm pretty
That's
sure I
the
couldn't
thing.
walk around Alberta. Oh, this is what I'm not gonna lie. Like I miss this about having my the old house that I lived in, having the fence around and like trees and plenty. I would go outside and suntan in like my underwear and no top and have no problem because nobody could see me.
yeah.
But I can't do that here.
No. I don't know if I've ever lived in a house that had that luxurious privacy.
We will one day. Then you and I both could go outside naked.
I want to
In
live where there's
suntan.
like no one around for miles.
Totally.
Or I mean kilometers.
For a little while.
Yeah. Like you got to get in a car or something or ride a bike over. No walking here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never wanted to live in a building for that reason too.
You know, I've never lived in an apartment or a condo or anything like that.
We had an apartment.
Oh, I don't really count that. Sorry, that was so
I
brief.
know, it was a unique setup too. Like, and that's why I liked it because it was an apartment, but it didn't feel like it.
Yeah. It was very brief as well. Like
Mhm.
it was short-lived. I don't really yeah.
Yeah, but that's the closest I would get. And again, just because it had street level access, you know, I'm like, I don't have to go to an
Yeah.
elevator or through a lobby or a blah blah blahs, and like people don't have to buzz in. Like,
Totally.
park on the street, walk up to the door, like it's a house.
Hmm.
You know, I've always liked that, and I feel like when I look at places to live in, I feel like it's almost less important how the inside feels to me, and it's more important how are people going to get here. You know, like if I'm having friends visit or families coming over, you know, like I feel like that's my first, I guess, filter that I put the place through, and then after that, it's like, okay, people can get here. Cool. Do I like other stuff about this, or can I?
Where can I
Make it
put
work.
those people?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But then it's sort of like everything else comes secondary. It's like if I can't really have people over, then I'm like, well, fuck this place. I'm like,
Yeah,
or if it's annoying, or if I have to like buzz them into things or whatever. I'm like, nah, like
totally.
that's dumb.
I also think when it comes to anywhere to and having people come over, I think about the easy access to for older family members or people who have difficulty. So I hate the thought of having stairs up to my front door.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that so much.
Same.
Actually, really just hate stairs.
Yeah, me too.
I would love one level. I also grew up with more of that kind of, I guess it was like a rancher, but we had a basement. It's just that the basement was storage.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now because we were really tight spaced before, close together. There was a lot of us. But now I'm like, well, if we made one and just like spread it out. I like that better because I also just hate going up and down stairs.
Yeah.
I already have to do that in other people's houses.
Yeah. It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
in Virginia, we lived in a townhome that was a 3-level.
No, 3 levels.
Yeah. It was like the bottom was mostly garage, and there was a small like TV office area. Like we had the computer and a TV down there. And then we had the mid-level was like kitchen with a little like dining room, and then another seating area with a TV. And then there was like this half bathroom on the corner of the stairs. And then up top was mom and dad's bedroom, and then my brother and I's bedroom. But it was, it still sucked. It's just like this narrow little thing. It's not like each level was maybe the size of like
your corner
just this
office
half
right
of
here.
No, just like this half of the basement, like not the laundry and everything. Sort of like half the basement here, almost, or maybe the full thing. But because it was divided into such small areas, they all felt a little small.
Yeah.
And then you had a little like deck off of the back, but it looked into like everyone else's garage and deck. Like there's nothing to see.
Yeah.
And next to that was one of the main roadways, so there's just cars and traffic and like a strip mall thing across the side of the other side of the road. And I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah. Speaking of decks, that makes me think of our backyard. Yeah, we have like this square patch of grass, which is great. We should probably cut down that tree that's in the back a little bit, just to get more sun in there. Yeah. But anyways, when I have to be conscious of when I want to go out there and like tan in my bathing suit, because I'm literally underneath the neighbor's balcony. Yeah. Like straight up underneath the not just our neighbors next door, but the neighbors next door to them.
Yeah.
And the only saving grace from those guys is the big lilac bushes that are in front, that are filled in the summer. And I just have to laugh at that, because I just have never been that or I haven't been that close to people in a long time. Mm-hmm. And I want to be I want to be respectful, because like that's a family over there. Mm-hmm. And not like I'm naked, but my butt's out still. But I'm also like, this is my yard. Yeah. This is my square patch.
Hey, if you can walk around topless, you can.
We're not in Maple Ridge anymore, Jake.
Whatever.
Can we pause for a sec?
Yeah. And we're back.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Sometimes we don't tell people we left.
We are this time.
We just pretend and we blend it.
Yeah.
Anywho. What's going on with you?
I don't know. A lot of the same. Yeah, not a lot new. Just working through. Got some projects lined up that I, am excited about for some income.
I'm excited to work so I can get paid and pay my bills.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was talking with one of the guys who hires me, and he's got like some lower paying real estate gigs and
real estate.
Yeah, like just videos of houses for sale and stuff, like video tours of houses and stuff, and like they don't pay great. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I feel bad asking you, because like I know you're worth so much more and stuff. I'm like, I find it funny how, what would I say? I guess it's one of those curses in a way of doing a certain quality of work that then you almost disqualify yourself from things that you're more than qualified to be able to do. Mm-hmm. So I think I've been trying to figure out how I deal with that, because, I enjoy, like, I don't want to do a bunch of that. I don't want that to be everything I'm doing all day, or like rushing around filming a bunch of houses in a day. I'm like, that's not fun. But, doing some here and there, like I love the variety of work. And it's like, I know I can shoot those things.
Well, and you like helping people out, like
it's a different style I haven't done a lot. So there's still a learning curve, right? Even though it's not what I typically shoot or want to shoot. But I think I'm hitting a point where I'm also feeling like I've sat around a lot this year, even though I've had a few, like income wise, it's been fine, but it's just been like a handful of jobs, so still most of the month you're kind of just, I don't know, I'm making up my own personal things to entertain myself, um, entertain myself, practice skills, and just put something out there, to remind people that, hey, I'm here and I'm doing stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm also like, I'd love to just throw in some more of those little things here and there too. But I hadn't thought of that entirely. Like, I don't know, I guess it makes me think of when I remember it was like older people who had been laid off complaining that they couldn't find jobs because, again, people were like, oh, you're like too qualified, like you've
Yeah.
been doing that for 20, we're looking for like an entry level person, and they're like,
Yeah.
I could do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's
It's
also
interesting.
nice to know that those people who are asking you to do some mundane work appreciate and know that you can do more, but also nice that they can think of you as like a backup too. And like you said, there's always opportunities to learn more and meet new people and network and all that stuff. So it's not something that you should ever um I mean, unless you're busy, of course, like shut down. Like you're
Yeah.
also maintaining that good relationship with the people that are asking you too. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But I think it helped me understand too that I look at, I guess, a career progression, if that might be the way to phrase it, in a different way, where I'm like, it's not that I like level up and it's like you only do these things, or now I work, at this top end and this low end.
Sorry, I'm in another tier than you.
Yeah, and I'm
It's like a bad relationship. Hey, she's out of your league.
Yeah, I never look at it that way. I'm always like, it's like I've done lower, I guess, if that's how you want to use it. I don't think of it this way, so it's hard for me to phrase it, but just, it's like now I can do all of these things. Like if there's this high end here that I can do, and then there's this low end here that I've also had experience in, like I don't look at that and say I can't or won't, or I'm like above that. It's like, well, I can say yes or no. And like maybe sometimes you just feel like doing something that's kind of easy and brainless, or a little less, what's the word? Like creatively demanding, or you can find a different way of bringing some creativity to it. Cause I'm like, just because it's a real estate tour doesn't mean it has to be boring for me. It's like there's the challenge then, like something that most people would look at and say, this is boring and dumb, or like doesn't pay me much, so I'm not going to put much into it. It's like, well, that isn't true. Like that's just what you're telling yourself.
Yeah. I hate that people break up stuff like that so much, because I think you're what? I was hoping if I opened my mouth I could remember the word. But you're worth more. You're more valuable when you know more. So why limit just because it's, like you said, might be considered a lower value.
Yeah. But to me, it means you're judging the whole process and project solely off of what you're getting paid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is just one part of the project.
Well, especially for people like you in your profession, sometimes you don't get paid for some of the best work you do.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's
just saying.
My favorite, there was some photographers in Bellingham, that I would hang around with, and they would put on, an annual, like photography conference. And I remember this one photographer was up talking about like the business of it. And I can't remember if this was a Q&A part or like just part of his presentation, but I think within freelancing and people who do photography or video work, it's always super contentious about pricing and how you should price and all this. Cause like, people kind of don't care what you charge, but then they're like, well, if you're not charging enough, then like you're bringing down everyone's rates because now clients expect it's going to be cheap and stuff. Right. And it's like, I mean, maybe, but I loved how this guy put it, where he's like, look, like, he's like, I got into business like to work for myself so I can make decisions. You know, he's like, if a thing comes along and they're not paying anything, but it sounds really fun and awesome for me, then like, I'll just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't give a shit. He's like, and then if something else comes along and it's really demanding and I'm like, oh, that's going to cost a lot, then like, I'll tell them it's going to cost a lot. Like, he's like, this isn't a standardized thing. Like, we're in business for ourselves. Like, do what you want and will.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, there's always going to be someone who will do it cheaper than you. And there's always going to be someone who will do it for more than you. So like, who gives a flying fuck? Just, are you available? Are you interested?
Yeah.
Do it. Or
sometimes it's just depending on the fit.
Yeah. And I think that was hugely liberating to me, because I, especially coming from the union film world, where that, you know, it's very much like, well, these are the rules and we have to blah, blah, blahs. And like, you have to get paid certain rates and follow certain protocols. Blah, blah. And I was like, and this guy's out there like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I just do what I want. Charge a lot, charge a little. I don't, he's like, it's my business. I do what the fuck I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, but I noticed it mentally shifted my focus away from like the pay or the compensation. And I was like, I don't know, are these people fun to be around? Can I make fun of this project? You know, because I realized it's not on someone else to make this project fun for me. I don't know. I've had loads of fun just shooting like industrial, what do you call those? Assembly lines and shit, you know? Because I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, you can find something really fascinating about all these little mechanical details, and then talking with people who have this insanely nerdy obsession with like millimeters of tweaking things. And you're like, well, that's really fun. And if I just approach this and say, I'm going to be curious and, you know, find something that I think is cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you can make any project fun and interesting.
Yeah.
You know, but if I sit there and I go, oh man, I'm only getting paid $100 to do this and I should be getting $1,000, like, then you're not going to shoot anything fucking interesting. You're going to be a miserable bore to be around, and like, you're not going to make a good product.
With anything, we are in control of our feelings and our perceptions and how we react and act and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So actually, it's really funny. Right. I'm so sorry if I felt like I looked like I zoned out for a minute, because I kind of came up with while you're saying that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to approach tomorrow in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what I'm doing right now with work. So I'll
Nice.
talk to you about that later. But I was just like, yeah, okay, sure. Let's just do that. Let's just do that. And I'm like, okay, now I'm excited, and I hope that this actually makes it more of a pleasant day.
Yeah. It totally does. Like, yeah, that mindset matters a lot.
But it's also, my thought was like, yes, it's not my mindset that I'm trying to rearrange here. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what can I do to actually make someone else's mindset work in the way that I want? How can I manipulate someone else, basically? I think in a good way. In a good way, I guess.
I think you just, if you be the person that you want to be around, that's often enough to make people change. And if not, then it's like, I don't know, I just remove myself from those people, or, you know, minimize time from them, distance from them.
I'll explain to you after. Like, what I mean by that is just not something that appropriate for our pod.
Yeah, of course. But I think just to go off from the, I don't know, change the way, manipulate to more just, you know, be an example, maybe an influence.
No, because I actually really do believe in the word that I chose for the situation that I'm dealing with. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I actually mean it in a positive way, because the word manipulate can come off as the wrong way, but I guess in the way that where I can actually make somebody's day better. Mm-hmm. Manipulate the way that they perceive something in a positive way. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But on that job part of things, the last thought I had there too was just, I also recognize that, say maybe I'm asking a lot for a job because I feel like I need to make more money this month or something, right? It's like, it's my financial situation is pressuring me to ask for something that's not reasonable within a budget or, whatever's being offered. And it just had me thinking like just how that other company's financial situation is not my problem. Right? If I'm like, well, here's my rates and what this is going to cost. And I'm like, well, we don't have that. And I'm like, well, like, see ya. Like, that's not
Yeah.
like your money issues aren't my issue. But it works the same way as well, right? Where it's like my money issues are not this company's money issues either. Like
Yeah.
we're all separate here. We're all maintaining our own shit. If you say this is all you have, then, I can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with my
I feel like
value, so to say.
you're really, really good at, being like, hey, this is my quote. And then when people come back and say, you're really good at negotiating. Negotiating where it makes sense for the both of you.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes a little bit less here, a little bit more there. You know what I mean? But I think that also is what makes you just a great person to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine, because I think of the sort of the same thing when I think about myself and how I work with other people too. And when you can be flexible without, screwing up your own worth and all of that great stuff, then I think that also makes you a just better person to work with, and you're going to be asked more, and that way you can progressively earn stuff in the future. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly.
It's just like, I don't think there are certain times where I don't think like, or situations where you just have to, be flexible. Your work, especially.
Yeah, totally. And like it's relationship based.
100%.
And like that's how you have to look at it, because you could have a client who maybe they only pay you $100 a video and you do 2 in a month or something, but you're doing that all year long, right? So you're getting a couple grand a year out of them, versus if you have a client that you work for once and you get $5,000
after
I'm like
a year of working
years,
with them.
But 5 years later, you're going to make more money with that lower paying client than you did with that one paying client.
So what I was thinking was more so like the people that have a hard time paying you up front and have like respecting you and waiting forever. You're usually the ones that you work with one time because you can't trust them.
Yeah.
Either.
Or you just know that, okay, these people want me in for one big thing that's going to happen rarely. Like, all right, like even if they trust me and want me back, it's like, however their money's working, they can't pay me that regularly.
Yeah.
So
I guess I'm thinking recurring. About those people that are like, they have the money, they can pay you now, but they are so fucking slow and are needy and change their minds about everything and don't understand any part of the process and the actual work that goes into it. And then they don't pay you.
Yeah, but that's easy to figure out after like a little bit of time. You're like, okay, just no amount of money is going to be worth dealing with this person. So
totally.
Yeah, see you later.
But also just super annoying when it lasts like a year.
Yeah, but that's why I mean the relationship always comes first, and you look at it and you say, man, this person's really great to deal with, and they let me have a lot of creative fun and control and autonomy, and they like just what I do when I show up and just do me, shoot what I would shoot. And, like I would hands down work for that person for less money over working for someone who is, micromanaging control freak with no real insights into a creative process, but they're dangling a bunch of money in front of my face. I'd be like, yeah, you can take that money elsewhere. Like, I don't want your headaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but I think it takes a long time to figure that out and even just sort of find the self-confidence and also the financial footing, because early on when I was starting, like, you sort of were like, well, I'll do it, I guess. Cause I could use a couple $1,000 or something to
totally
pay some bills. So you do it, but then you just get tired of that game and you realize, yes, no one's going to come fix this for me. I have to do it. Like,
I think that comes with maturity and wisdom as well.
experience.
Maturity, wisdom, experience.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's just really hard dealing with people who have not experienced any of that stuff yet.
Well, I think the wisdom part from experience comes when you stop to reflect and you say, okay, how did this situation happen? You know, like, because after projects, I will say my business partner, Brian, when we were working together and had our production company, we were really good at doing debriefs on projects. Like, we would finish the project and we'd sit down together and we go, okay, like, what went right? What could we do better? You know, and then also what were like red flags we should have picked up on earlier and stuff.
Nice. Oh, yeah. Because you're going to learn something different from everybody or every client, every situation. And
because I remember we had one project with actually my favorite client.
Yeah.
And even though that project went relatively well, we failed to identify another stakeholder who had like creative approval and like editing permission. And we were like, oh, we should have identified that earlier and brought them in earlier and just like sort of been really firm with that request to say, well, if this person is going to have, you know, veto or approval say on what we're doing, let's get them in here talking early on, because it became a bit of a pain later when they weren't involved in those earlier
and you've
conversations.
already done most of the work probably.
Yeah, exactly. And we're at a point where we thought, oh, we should just be like, change a word here or there or something. It's like, oh no, we're in like rewrites after we've shot. You're like, oh, oops.
It's double the work. Yeah.
And thankfully they were easy to work with at least. So it wasn't a big deal. But if you had a different client who was, you know, a lot more difficult to work with or had tighter deadlines or something like.
So I have a question for you then. Now that you're working alone and you're working also for a lot of other people, do you ever just like sit down and debrief with yourself, like write down notes of like all that stuff? What you could have done better, what you maybe missed, what went well? Because I feel like I'll just step in and I'll be like, when I train in my profession and I always do that at the end of my training because everybody is so different. And that's when I had that revelation just in the middle of the conversation here where I'm like, okay, let me think about who I'm training right now and how I can actually make that better.
Yeah.
For both of us. Yeah.
To answer your question, I don't really have a formal process of it, but I do have that conversation mentally. Yeah. And then I think right now I've gotten to a point too where a lot of my process is very streamlined. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I need to change this about what I do. Or it's like, maybe just trust that one gut instinct you had to put up a boundary or be a little more firm in a request because you didn't, and you thought maybe something could go off the rails a little bit if I don't, or if I don't enforce this request, and then it does, and you're like, damn it! Like, just I think now I'm at a point where it can be a little bit more. Just listen to that gut. I know my process. I know what I need, and I think more of that comes from working with new clients. It's like I've also been working with a lot of these people more regularly now. So it's a bit more a casual conversation where I know how they work. I know what to expect. So I feel a lot more prepared. But yeah, like when working with a new client now, I realize, oh, I have to enforce more of a, what do you call it? Like I guess like a dating period, you know, like I need to get to know them.
You need deadlines also. Oh, a dating period. I guess
before I even accept the job, just be like,
oh, I see what you mean. Sorry. When you said date, I thought you meant deadline. Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah.
So, so just sussing people out in like, is this a good pairing? Yeah.
But also you can learn a lot from that response. Cause like if they shoot back and they're like, we don't have time, we have to this or that. I'm like, oh, okay. Then that means everything's going to be an emergency. You don't plan very well. You rush to put fires out all the time. And I don't want to work with those kinds of people. So I can immediately just disregard it almost and say, nah, never mind. Like, call me when you have time to sit down, meet me, talk, get to know each other. You know, because I'm like, I guess I've just gone down that path enough of meeting someone new and just saying, yeah, sure, okay, and then hopping in and like, oh, wow, and then they just run all over you too because you've been very like I don't know. It's like you've just given them the upper hand in the whole relationship already, where they're like,
The
"Oh, I can
benefit
just
of the
ask them for
doubt
anything and they'll
as
do
well,
it."
though. Too, you're trying. You don't know yet
Mhm.
that you need to weed people out. So you are giving people the benefit of the doubt and hoping that it'll go better than maybe this interaction went.
Exactly.
Now, personally, I have to adapt. I have to adapt to people and clients and things and stuff like that. Is that in my what I do, which can be is completely different from what you do, but do you feel like you adapt to other people?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because like I said, everyone works in slightly different ways. And so it's like, okay. Like I have some people that I work with who, I don't know, if I'm on set helping them set up shots and stuff, I'm like, I literally have no idea how this is going to cut together. So I really just have to ask questions and then just do exactly what they say.
Totally.
Right. Because you're like, oh, I have no like full vision of what you're doing here. And I don't want to fuck that up either because I've seen you do great work.
Yeah.
So it's not like I distrust your quality or anything. It's just I don't know. There's something about maybe the way you communicate that just, I can't get that visual or see that full thing in my head, but I know what you're going to make is awesome. So I just have to ask a lot of questions and clarify, and it works.
So maybe
and then
also
there's other people where I'm like, I can see the full thing and I don't have to ask as many questions, but it also leaves room where I can suggest some alterations or say, ooh, maybe we should tweak this to be a little bit that way or change up the action here a little bit.
Yeah.
And I can be a little more suggestive and creative in that sense.
I feel like you can do the same thing when you're adapting or like when you're doing what somebody else is envisioning, because you can do exactly what they say and maybe it's slightly off from what they're looking for, but you can use whatever little expertise and tricks and tips that you know to provide possibly the solution if you can see that.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah,
and again, it all varies, but I think I approach it a little differently because I know I'm coming in as more of a technician on this job.
Mhm.
So it's a little less creative, which is also sometimes really awesome. Like that creative thinking and suggesting takes up a lot of brain power and can leave you kind of exhausted and wiped out. So it is nice to have times where you're like, cool, you just want me to come in here, set up these lights this way or something? Like, awesome.
Yeah,
I'm there, 100%. Love it.
Cool.
And then other times you're like, this will be fun too, because I can kind of we can kind of co-create it from a creative standpoint.
Co-create and creative
co-create from a creative standpoint.
I know the word create.
I speak great English.
Where's the fourth?
Exactly. But I just mean I can suggest some more alterations and give options and draw on more of my I don't know, just my imagination from those experiences. And so I think that's where a lot of that comes in.
I think that is another thing that really, those are qualities that make us, again, valuable to people, because there's so many people that are so stuck in ways that there's no open-mindedness, there's no wiggle room. And I think that's the dumbest thing out there, is like nobody and no situation is always the same or perfect or whatever. And so you always have to be able to maneuver and be respectful and like lighthearted about it and like chill, not so stuck up. Yes, there's times where it's frustrating. So I think that's where we excel as people in a way. And I just want to give us a pat on the back.
Yeah, pat on the dinks.
And I love you because we are very similar in a lot of ways. So
yeah, I love you too.
Yeah, because I love you, I love myself.
I am you and you are me.
Yeah. And we are all together. And let's go. I'm done. Are you done?
Do you want to? I just had one last thought on that though, because
sure,
there's a cinematographer, Roger Deakins, who I really admire, and he's done anyone in film will like bow down to him. He's just seen as one of the greats. But the thing I admire most about him was that he spent a lot of his early career days shooting like documentary stuff in Africa and weird remote places around the world. Not just in Africa. I don't mean Africa is the only weird remote place. But he was like, he's like, I learned so much about just using what you have available, shooting that way. You know, he's like, and that's how he learned a lot of his craft, and he developed this style. Like he's known for having like a universal style in a sense, because every film he comes to, he just sort of looks at it and he seems to come up with something brilliant for it, where you're like, it wouldn't matter if it's like from James Bond to The Big Lebowski to Blade Runner to what's the other one I'm thinking of? Sicario, like such different genres of films,
Those were
different
all
lighting
his.
styles, different demands and all this, but like he's able to adapt. And sometimes even he's just like one light, bounce it off a piece of cloth.
Well,
and like, there's the scene.
Yeah.
Let's roll. Like he doesn't make it elaborate. He's just kind of like, what is the bare minimum needed to achieve a certain look or feeling?
Yeah. But so, you know, and am I saying this right? Abbreviation, the KISS.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm thinking, keep it stupid simple.
Yeah. That works too.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we all think so hard sometimes.
Yeah. And that's what I really admire about him, and almost like mirror my own career path off of. Where it's not necessarily for being a cinematographer, but just with anything, where I'm like, okay, well, I can learn to use what I have around me to make the best possible whatever I'm tasked with doing. You know, and that only helps me have a greater mastery later, because someone else might come in. I remember one of the first we did this Hallmark movie, and the DP on that like had fucking lights everywhere. I remember doing this cooking scene in a kitchen, and he had like a light in the middle of the only fucking doorway in and out of that kitchen, and I'm having to like run in and out with food resets and stuff, and like, but I can't because he has this big fucking light and all this shit in front of the doorway. And I'm like, what the fuck? I remember like trying to ask him, hey, can we like, you know, I need to get in and out of here quickly to reset everything that we're doing. And he's just like, he was super arrogant kind of a guy, right? He's like, I'm fucking painting with light, like flips his little scarf around and like, I'm
no
a
way.
fucking artist, you know? And I'm like, oh no, you're a cunt. And I remember I just kind of gave up. I just turned to the assistant director and I'm like, well, if he's leaving that there, this is going to take me a long time. And I remember that guy too, just he looked fed up with it as well, but he's like, whatever. He's like, okay, thanks for the heads up.
And you know, with the Hallmark movie, oh my God, that means an extra day.
It looked like shit. Like, and that's what pissed me off the most in a way. Cause I'm like, you know, if you had like a really awesome looking shot where I was like, that's the coolest lighting I've ever seen in my whole fucking life. Yeah, I'll work around your light. But I'm like, this looks like a film school student came in here and lit this. Get your stupid light out of my fucking doorway. You know, like we all have to play here. And I think that's what I admire about someone who understands how to do what's required with the minimum amount. And also, I guess, has a respect for everyone else's contributions to what's going on. Where they're like, oh shit, maybe I can't just take control of this whole thing and put shit wherever the fuck I want, because, you know, how are we going to film the scene and keep ourselves on a schedule?
Yeah. How such a big like production like that, and one person thinks that they're the ones making it happen.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. There's so many more of you than anything else out there. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You're all, it's the teamwork that is so lacking out there. Everybody's entitled.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. But then someone reminded me once, I was like frustrated with a bunch of shit on set one day too. And I think it was a prop master or someone like that who had been working in Vancouver for a long time. And I remember they turned him in. They were like, you know, 90% of these guys were like hired out of a bar one day, and then they've just been doing this for 20 years. Like they have no training. They have no experience in anything. They were thrown into shit and they've just been making it up their whole life. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I understand now. Like, they're just on a different planet. So I was like, okay.
This is how I make a money.
Well, it reminded me too that I had made a very intentional choice with what I wanted to go do.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, these people didn't do that. They just kind of fell into it. And they were like, well, I'm making more than I was spending at the bar, so I'll just keep doing this, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's a different
approach.
I'm like, I understand. And on that note, we'll end. Bye.